Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for taking the time. So I've been asked not to start until the video is on the screen. So I'll wait, take instructions very carefully and wait for that. So thank you all so much for being here. We're here to talk about ADNOC drilling, what we believe is a completely unique equity story and investment proposition, not only in the Middle East, but on a global basis, right? On one hand, we have what we believe is the most downside protected investment proposition anyone can come in. This is basically 15-year take-or-pay contracts as the exclusive driller in Abu Dhabi, who's doing all the drilling for ADNOC with basically guaranteed IRRs during this period and full cost reimbursements during this period, a guaranteed dividend policy that will see us distribute more than $5 billion minimum dividends over the next 5 years, more than 20% of our current market cap. On the other hand, as strong of a growth story as any story you will see. We've been growing more than 30% year on year on average for the last 3 years. We'll continue to grow by around 18% in the medium term and beyond that as well. We're owned 78.5% by ADNOC, the national energy company of the UAE, giving us an extremely strong backing. And the remaining 21.5% is owned between the Abu Dhabi Exchange and our cornerstone investors. We're part of all the global major indices, MSCI, FTSE. The vast majority of our free float actually sits outside the UAE. All the big global long-only investors, emerging market energy investors are all in the stock. This has been reflected in the performance of the stock, where we're up 60% in the last 12 months as one of the absolute, if not the best performing stock in the UAE and the region. And it continues to be massive upside from here. So we're also the most covered stock in the UAE. We have 16 analysts covering the stock, including 14 buy recommendations, the most buy recommended stock across the entirety of the Middle East, with price targets reaching as high as 8.2 dirhams for the stock, up from the current 5.6 level. So we believe substantial further upside and re-rating opportunities in the stock. If we dive into our growth is coming from all across. So on one hand, domestically, we benefit from being the exclusive driller for ADNOC. So any barrel that ADNOC gets out of the ground, oil, gas, onshore, offshore, conventional, unconventional, comes out by ADNOC Drilling. And hence, all the ADNOC growth plans that you hear of, right? Whether it's going to 5 million barrels per day by 2027, whether it's the gas, the unconventional gas, the LNG, the sour gas, whatever you hear is being extracted by ADNOC Drilling, and that's growth for us. And that's why just domestically, we're growing 18% year on year. Effectively, we're taking this position as the national champion of the UAE and also taking it outside the UAE, right? So today, almost 10% of our operations are now global in just under a year of our global expansion. And this is a function of setting up a specialist, technology-enabled global oilfield services platform, Enersol, where we basically now have 140 patents for companies operating in 35 countries, serving more than 70 upstream oil and gas clients. And all of this while being part of the ADNOC 2045 net zero, one of the fastest net zero roadmaps globally, and cutting our emissions by 25% by 2030. If you look at where ADNOC is going, right, and this is really a reflection of just one part of where we're going, plus our regional growth. ADNOC is going across the board, right? Oil is going to 5 million barrels per day. Gas, more LNG capacity, more industrial domestic capacity, more residential domestic capacity, international ambitions. For example, we're now live in Jordan because ADNOC is live there and we're live with them. So wherever they go, we benefit, plus our own independent growth. So we basically sit at this kind of intersection, right, where basically we benefit from that growth, but then we don't have any of the oil price exposure, right? So effectively, take all the positive things about energy, about the infrastructure growth, the number of barrels per day, but then take out all the more challenging things around oil price volatility, and that effectively becomes ADNOC Drilling. Because the way we get paid on IRR. So as long as capacity is happening, activity is happening, doesn't matter where the oil price is, we continue to get paid, we continue to grow. And that's why we've grown through COVID, we've grown through the 2015-16 downturn, and whatever fluctuation oil price. So basically, anyone who wants to play energy but not play the oil price, ADNOC Drilling is the way to do that. In terms of dividend policy, we have the most kind of progressive and committed dividend policy, basically pretty much out there, right? So we have a 5-year dividend policy a guaranteed dividend approved by the board, approved by the General Assembly. It's not linked to performance, it's not linked to financials, it's not linked to a payout ratio, it's not linked to anything. It's $788 million dividend this year, growing by at least 10% as an absolute hard floor for at least the next 5 years. This is pretty much money in the bank. And this is just the floor, right? So the dividends can actually grow faster and potentially much faster than that. Today, this dividend that we're paying, the implied of it is only 60% of net income, and only 50% of pre-growth capex free cash flow. So substantial more cash available. And when you combine this with the fact that we're only 1 time net debt to EBITDA, we have massive balance sheet flexibility, plus effectively free cash flow flexibility to take both growth and dividends to the next level. Free float. Today, we're one of the most actively traded stocks on the Abu Dhabi Exchange. We're regularly a top 5 liquidity stock, day in, day out, trading $20 million plus every day. This is partially thanks to 2 placements that we've done this year, one by ADNOC for a 5.5% stake, one by HMP for 1% stake. This took our total free float to 16.5%. Got us to be part of MSCI, got us to have a higher weight in FTSE, got us to have all the big global investors in the stock. And today, effectively, just what we're hearing is just people can't still get enough of the stock, right? And effectively, this is starting this positive momentum where basically every time we had a placement, the share price within days and weeks was trading substantially higher than where the placement was done. On the decarbonization sustainability side, effectively all our latest 19 rigs all come in as hybrid rigs that work not only with partially diesel generators, but also with batteries and grid connections. All our labor camps, our rig crew camps are over time effectively being transformed to also have solar panels and grid connections, and hence basically we're firmly on our road for the net zero. If you look at our financials, since we've listed in 2021, we've pretty much doubled the size of the company. Even if you look at it on net income base, even more than doubled, going from $600 million net income to $1.3 billion net income in just 3 years, right? And this was predominantly just domestic growth, and predominantly was oil growth as ADNOC went from 4 million to get to close to its 5 million target. So if you take this doubling in the last 3 years and then add to it the international, the gas, the technology, the M&A, that gives you a picture of what our growth in the future would look like. Quarter on quarter, we've had 5 straight quarters from Q3 23 to Q3 24, where we've beaten consensus every single quarter for the last 5 quarters, right? And that puts us on a very strong roadmap to continue to do so, continue to beat and continue to surprise to the upside with every quarter that we publish. And obviously, we operate at the highest margins in the industry. Our EBITDA margins go as high as 68% on our segments, and our blended EBITDA is 50%, our blended net income is 33%. And this is basically driven by growth across all segments of our operations that are all basically carrying that, and it's translating directly into kind of free cash flow to the bottom line. We operate on a forward guidance as well, which again, we tend to constantly beat and be ahead of. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Again, if one thing I leave you with, as defensive growth story as it gets, fully guaranteed on the downside, unlimited upsides. Would love to see you all on the stock, and thank you very much.